As you sit down and look upon everything that has happened in your life and just reminisce about the good old days, you remember the joys that you had. You remember being a child, the smell of the air when you're outside, the smell of the house when your favorite meal is being prepared by your parents, the joys and aspirations that you had, the ability to want to do whatever you wanted, the ability to dream of a better life. The magic of your childhood slowly brings a tear to your eye as you remember your best friend, everybody that you have loved, everybody that you used to hang out with, and all you can think of in this time of memory and bliss is how time flies. And as your life slowly ends, you look upon the miserable state of life that you are left with, and while you're sitting down, all you can think of is, where did it all go wrong? Later that night, while you're in your bathroom taking your medication, and all you can think about is that you were just better off dead. Nobody I care about is here anymore, and I wish I could just go back to the prime of my life. You want to redo everything in your life. You want to re-enjoy everything that you have done. You wish that you could have appreciated it more in the past, and that's all you want to. And then you slowly come to a realization that you will never get that feeling back. You will never see those people again. They are long gone. And as you finish your glass of water that you used to take the pills, you climb yourself in the bed because your wife is already dead and gone. And you slowly cry yourself to sleep. You dream of the past. And the question that you ask over and over again in your head is still, where did it all go wrong? That question is slowly driving you insane to the point that you are now having a panic attack. All you hear in your ears and your brain is, where did it all go wrong? It's all my fault. God, please help me. And while that's happening, you are frantically looking around for an answer. And then you realize that the answer that you were seeking was right in front of you the entire time. And as you sit there and you look at the answer in its face, you wish that you never knew it in the first place. After learning this knowledge, you realize there is no point anymore. You open up your closet door and you grab the gun that you keep in the shoebox for protection. You wipe the dust off of the old revolver. This is the same revolver your father gave you when you were just a boy. This is the same gun that you shot when you were 13, and the same gun that you showed off to your girlfriend when you were 16. The feeling that you have right now is emptiness inside. You look at the gun for a while just standing there, and yet you actually don't think. You just stare off. Your mind is wandering. You don't even remember what you were thinking about when you come to. You walk over to your bed and sit down. You put the gun in your lap. You feel the fear when you look at the firearm. You cannot go back from anything you were about to do, and you have made that choice. The only thing that you can see right now is your wife's warm smile, her loving embrace. Yet again, you see your father and your mother. Their arms are open waiting for you. They have missed you and you have missed them. So you put the gun up to your chin. You feel the coldness that it gives off as death's cold embrace slowly starts to wrap around you. And then you finally pull the trigger, and your life ends. And that's how thousands of people see Rainbow Six Siege nowadays. Oh, you thought it was gonna be a more serious type of video? Nah. It's always Rainbow Six on this channel. You know that, I know that. But a lot of people remember the good old days of Siege. It's just pure chaos and just the fun that they had. It's a nostalgia trip, just like the beginning of the story. And I feel that everybody is overanalyzing what Siege nowadays because the game is still similar to what it used to be. People don't want to admit it, but Ubisoft has done a very good job at balancing the game and making it as competitively viable as it can be as of today. But the entire thing when it comes to Siege is people take it over serious. I do it too. But if you want a balanced game, which is what everybody was asking for back in the day, they got the balanced game that everybody's crying about it. But I want to sit here and I want to pinpoint where I think Siege started going in a negative direction, in my opinion, and I want to see how you guys feel about it. So let's get into it. We start our story off back in one of the most peaceful times in human history, and that was in 2020.
Yes, deployed.
Tell your brothers and sisters, we will not win this fight with guns. It's not gonna happen. We gotta be peaceful.
Now that NBA star Kobe Bryant was on board that helicopter and is now dead at the age of 41.
During 2020, we had the release of Operation Steelwave, which is where I'm going to pin the beginning of the end for Rainbow Six Siege. We can first start off with the operators. Ace and Malusi are very strong ops that, you know, they are still impacting the meta as of today, but that's not where it's all heading downhill. And the reason why we need to start here, and instead of like Burnt Horizon where we last got out back when it released, is that between the years of 2019 and 2020, we were still getting plenty of content. Sure, they were reworked maps, but they were still maps. but the reason why we're still here is, I'll explain it to you in a sec. So we can agree to disagree on this, but I believe that back then Siege was House. Like, when you thought of Siege, that was 110% the most iconic map for that game. That's the map that they showed off in the beginning trailers back in 2015.
First floor is all boarded up.
Yeah, we faced these guys before.
All right, my drone spawned on the second floor.
Siege is House. If House isn't good, then Siege isn't good. And that is the season that House got reworked. Out of all the maps that needed it up to that point, they reworked House, yet we didn't get a Tower rework, which is what I think we really needed, because Tower sucks booty hole. But Siege is the casual community. Siege is House. And we can agree to disagree on that, but that is the most iconic Siege map. When you think back at old Siege, you're not thinking about old Clubhouse. No, you're thinking old House. The spawn peaks, the fun, the run out. You're not thinking of how they just made House into a competitive map, not to put into the rank pool. That's where I'm going to pin the start of the fall for Siege. And I don't think people really want to talk about the pandemic in the fall of Rainbow Six Siege as it was. Because that pandemic, it actually affected this game more than people want to admit. When the pandemic forced the Ubisoft devs or Rainbow Six Siege devs or whoever you want to call them back into their homes, and they couldn't really work on key issues in the game, that's where it all started. Siege at that point was doing very fucking well. It was kind of at its like peak, and then it just fell down slowly and slowly and slowly, and now we're at the point today where Siege isn't dying, but Siege isn't as strong as it used to be. But what I really think caused the fall of Siege, at least in my eyes, and I think in many other people's eyes, is the lack of content that they gave out for almost 2 years. 3 years. Same thing, same charge. But it's the lack of content, the lack of community support from Ubisoft. The fact that it didn't feel like they actually cared about the game that we all cared about. That's what I think actually caused it, in my opinion. The beginning of the downfall was during 2020 and the pandemic. Their decision to change House ruined a lot of stuff for at least me. Like, I miss that map like every day. If I could buy the map, I would happily buy the map, but they don't offer that. But I think I think what constituted Siege's fall was the pandemic, the non-care from Ubisoft, and the fact that the dev team switched. I believe the dev team switched in 2020. It could be later, but I think that the dev team now doesn't understand what it's doing, and the fact that Siege is now taking away basic frustrations, that is going against basic game rules and game knowledge. You need to drone to be effective. That's what that is. You clear out utility with your nades, with your Gong 6. Slowly but surely, this is how they're going to nerf defense. They're just going to take away everything that makes it viable. Frost is a trap op at the end of the day. And yet for some reason she doesn't trap anymore. How does that work? That's like being a drug dealer, but you have no drugs and you don't like to talk to people. It's just some basic rudiment. I cannot talk. It's just some basic bullshit that Ubisoft just refuses to fucking help us with. And I know this is a little bit of an abrupt ending, but I answered what I set out to say. Is like, when did Siege start to fail? I believe Operation Steel Wave was the beginning and the end for Rainbow Six. The fact that they want to do 10 more years yet with the same dev team, there's no way. Okay, I'm sorry to have to say it like that, but that's just the truth. If the dev team still goes in the direction that they're doing, especially with us getting no update this season, the shit's doomed. It can't, I'm not going to speak because I don't know, but I don't think it's that hard to give us 2 new ops, 2 unique abilities. Use the same guns over again in a new map. They've done it before, and they've done it with great success. With new maps, 2 new ops, and new weapons. I think Siege just set its building blocks down, and now they're just trying to play with them. So, what do you guys think? When do you think Siege actually stopped being, the game that it's supposed to be? I think 2020 was the downfall of Siege. I believe that it's bouncing back. I think there's something about the season that's telling me that it's going to be a better season. And I believe that the season when a zombie came out was also a really good season. But what do you guys all think? When does Siege start to fall? Do you guys enjoy Siege nowadays, or do you miss the old nostalgic feeling of old Siege? But with that being said, I know I'm a little bit of ranting at the end. I'm sorry. Make sure to subscribe down below. And with that being said, next out. Bye.
So pack, keep it to yourself, don't tell nobody where you had the racks. Don't know about you, but I got rich inside my habitat. Glad we love to shoot when he get mad, can't tell that boy relax.